morning once again. I hope if you can't see me, at least you can hear me. I trust it's been a great morning so far. I have the pleasure of moderating our next session, which is also the first panel for today. And we will be speaking to some of the aspects that Honorable Minister and the Deputy Governor touched on in their remarks around Rwanda's journey towards instant and inclusive payments. I think, as Steve mentioned, many of us in this room have had the opportunity to have a front row seat on Rwanda's journey. And I must say it has been a remarkable experience, one defined by resilience and ambition. And I think you'll get to hear from some of the faces that have been behind, shaping this vision, and they continue to shape this vision. I believe that one of the things that we must touch on, I think, today, as we speak about RNDPS, is interrogating some of the challenges that we have experienced over the last couple of years, our successes, but most importantly, what lessons have we observed? I believe that most of these are actually shared experiences across most of the countries that are represented here. And I think if the level 1 bootcamp that happened yesterday, for those of you who had the opportunity to attend, if it was any indication, I think it really highlighted the similarities between our ecosystems. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming our esteemed panelists this morning. I'll start with the CEO of RISA, Innocent Muhizi. Please welcome. I always try not to pronounce RISA in full, not to get into any problems with my boss. Next, we'll have the CEO of RSwitch, Blaise Gasabira. Please welcome to the stage. Oh, you can see. We'll have Jean-Claude Gaga, the Managing Director of Airtel Money. And finally, we'll have the Director of National Payments at the Central Bank, Christia Kargenedi. I think, let me first of all just say that this is quite a powerful panel. It's not every day that I get to have all 4 of you here at the same time. So thank you for joining us. And I'm delighted to be, joining in on this discussion this morning. So to kick us off, I think I'm even well seated. I'll start with you, Innocent. I think the Honorable Minister spoke to what our journey has been like. You've also touched on it. If we could just go back a couple of years, 2017, when the RNDPS vision was conceived, could you just briefly take us through what was the government's aspirations or motivations for an RNDPS vision?
Thanks, Vanessa. Once again, it's a pleasure to be here. So if we just take a step back and see at that point in time, what was the objective? What we had in the market at that time, you'd find a citizen with a card, and they would go to an ATM, and in some instances, they could not be able to access their money. In other instances, they could go to a POS machine, they could not be able to transact. And this was very inconveniencing. And then the government said, look, there has to be interoperability at all levels. And at that time, we were at the peak of mobile money services. They're trying really to becoming commonplace and an everyday today kind of tool to use for citizens. And the idea was, if I want to do a cash out, I should be able to do it at any agent. If I want to do a payment, I should be able to do it at any terminal or any agent, irrespective of the acquirer or the issuer of the instruments that you had in your hands. So that was the objective, to say, look, how do we make sure that citizens are not inconvenienced? How do we ensure that the market is actually growing? And how do we ensure that we're able to even get insights into the customer behavior of the citizens? Because at that time, we had no understanding of really the customer behavior, because the data, even if there was any data, leave alone very minimal, it was disintegrated. You could not link any data set to any other data set. So the government's vision at that time was, how do we ensure that we have an interoperable ecosystem that is serving the citizens and that is available and affordable to all the citizens?
Thank you, Innocent, for highlighting these initial drivers of RNDPS. I think I hear financial services, interoperability, reliable financial systems, but also being able to tap into the customer behaviors. Building on this vision, we know that successful implementations require, not only the right technology, but also skilled talent. Blaise, if I may come to you, as the CEO of RSwitch, who is also responsible for this mandate, could you share how RSwitch is addressing this challenge of building and enabling local talent? Specifically, how are you ensuring sustainability and continuity of what you're building?
Thank you, and thanks for having me. Yeah, talent is, I think it's a common challenge across all industries. What we've managed to do was trying to look at what we currently have and starting by leveraging the partnerships. Here I would like also to acknowledge African Ender, AFR. They've been really helpful in allowing us to tap into a larger network and getting some of the best brain that we can get on the continent. The other aspect has been how do we proceed in working and building around all the projects that we are currently dealing with, especially here in this case for the interoperability, and designing a solution on top of Mojaloop, is to consider each project as a classroom. So we ensure that each step, each challenge that we have, we make sure that we attend to it as a classroom. We document, because we want to ensure that there's continuity, there's a legacy that we leave, so that not only at our switch level, but even the entire community around can leverage and have access to what we are currently doing. The other aspect has been, I would say, a discovery journey. And here, I would say, we are benefiting from some of the initiatives that the government of Rwanda has taken. I think the strong investment into technology education is currently helping us. When we look at the fintech community that we have in Rwanda and the work that we are currently, the result that we are getting, as well as talent that we are seeing now from different universities, CMU, AUCA, and Coding Academy, it's a mind-blowing. Coming from a different industry, initially I was doubting that on the local market we could get such good talent that could really be able to come up with solutions that are at the standard in terms of best practices. So that's what we try to nurture and to encourage. And also on the other aspect now, putting in place an environment and codifying everything that we are doing so that we ensure that there is continuity.
Thank you, Blaise. I think having witnessed what RSwitch has done in the last couple of months, it certainly can't be overstated enough, the importance of cultivating the right talent. But beyond talent, having the right team, having the right platform, engaging with your participants effectively is equally crucial. And with that in mind, I'd like to turn to the perspective of Airtel Money, who is probably also representing the voices of the financial ecosystem. Participant engagement is key to the success of this initiative, yet it remains a fundamental, challenging area with very slow adoption. Based on your experience and having served as a scheme operator at one point and now as a participant, what do you think DFSPs are looking for? Or better yet, what are you looking for?
Thank you so much. I think speaking as the voice of participants, it's just one thing to look at, the bigger picture. The bigger picture meaning where is government headed with this as government strategy? Just as Blaise alluded to it, and this morning we heard from Minister Paula, is that government has already given us, a direction on this. We want a connected digital economy, and therefore whatever other business aspects or strategies that you need to build around this framework that government has already chartered for us. So number one is to just say, where are we headed as a country, and how can I plug my business, imperatives into this? Number two is to look at it also from perspective of participants. Again, when you participate into a shared infrastructure, which gives you access to much more of a bigger pie. As a shared infrastructure, of course, comes with its own benefits. If we were to go at this alone, individual participants, the cost of investments, the timelines of projects, the multiple and bilateral integrations that come with this, and the headache and investments that come with this, clearly, all these are eliminated when you come into such a shared participation that a switch brings into this kind of scheme that eCash has been able to enable for all of us. And lastly, it's just the speed to market. For us, I believe, once you get to participate here, your speed, your agility to engage with your partners, to engage with the customers, it becomes much faster when I just plug into an ecosystem that will give me access to the entire financial sector and to all the active accounts, active wallets, without the need of, again, going through these bilaterals that take time, take money, and sometimes deny you the opportunity to step back and be more innovative on your end. So for me, I'll just highlight these key areas, the bigger picture, understanding where the government is headed, being part of a shared infrastructure that gives you access to a bigger pie, and of course, giving you speed to market. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that perspective. Understanding what DFSPs need certainly is vital to enhancing engagements. Yesterday we had an engaging workshop on the level 1 principles, and I think thankfully, Director, you were part of this discussion yesterday. When it got to the point on fees and the costs, it was quite a heated discussion, as you would expect. A lot of shared challenges across the ecosystem. As someone who has been on the other side as well, as a participant and now a regulator, and in a financial ecosystem where we have stakeholders who are trying to balance the need to, one, recoup their investments, let's say our switch, meeting consumer demands for efficient and reliable digital payments, but also ensuring compliance on the other side. How is the central bank supporting the ecosystem? How are we ensuring that amidst the regulatory oversight, we are pushing the ecosystem to still be innovative and competitive?
Thank you, Vanessa. And thanks for the Mojaloop team for organizing this. I think it's a very great turn-up, especially on how many countries are here. And the full room, I think I was trying to count, we have more than 130 people. Thank you all for coming to Rwanda. I think you deserve a clap for organizing team and everyone. Just to give more context, she's alluded few things that I'm from the. I used to work for MTN, Mobile Money, so it has a lot of context in terms of what MTN is in that country, and just to put a basis on my answers, that you understand why I'm saying what I'm saying and whatever I'll answer. There's a point where he said Gaga was the scheme operator. He's the former CEO of RSwitch. There's a point where RSwitch was equal Gaga. Now he's also a participant. So just so that you know who is on this panel, because I noticed there are so many people that are not from Rwanda. What is the central bank doing? One, we don't regulate fees, unfortunately, but we ensure price stability, and my line manager is here, the executive director of financial stability. We ensure it's affordable, secure, and instant. It's a very tough journey, and this is where I think the whole DPI, digital public infrastructure model, matters. And it's a new concept for many governments, is you let private sector build a digital private infrastructure, they put their own investment, and yet we want them to return, to reduce, or you want to dictate their return on asset or return on investment. It doesn't make sense. And hence, where in many countries, Rwanda inclusive, you have bilaterals that behave like a spaghetti. You need to pick which one, and when you have one monopoly, they detect, so that monopoly becomes the switch. I don't know if it makes sense. So the journey is more ensuring we build a digital public infrastructure that is more or less like a utility entity that the central bank has oversight on, but focusing on consumer protection, that is affordable, so that not everyone is building an island and tell you, you have multiple countries within a country, or multiple regime within a country. So it's a lot of education, but like we always challenge the RSwitch team, it's more building a value proposition. And I think the session of yesterday, there's a part that I look on the PDF and immediately sent to the RSwitch CEO. How do you create value proposition so that people can join? Why should they live there bilateral? I think those are the things we're trying to do. And one is building a robust infrastructure so that you can be confident in terms of TPS transaction per second. You can migrate everyone, that's one. Second, is it touching your economy? Is it inclusive enough in terms of technology and affordability? Is it agnostic enough and answering to the issues of where you have high volume, high value transaction, P2P, P2B, remittance, aggregation of online transaction, and so on. So we are doing that. But on top of that, we've created a regulatory sandbox, and I think it's now famous, which is managed by another department, but we work hand in hand with the payment system. We've created a collaborative environment. We participate in the FinTech Fridays, central bank, where we answer many questions as much as we can. We invest in capacity building and advanced infrastructure, even on our side, especially when it comes to monitor things like AML. There's a whole bias where people think, most FinTech actually, that is a low risk, high return investment, low risk or low investment, high return. So removing those biases where you actually, even last week, someone tweeted that a fintech, and we had a long conversation for almost an hour. He tweeted, he said the central bank needs to change the way they regulate fintech. They should not regulate us the same way they regulate banks. So I picked the tweet, copy, sent it on his WhatsApp, and then I called him. I told him, if we, central bank, and I'm telling you as someone that used to be on the market player side, if the central bank had to apply the compliance that they apply on commercial bank, you'll all close. Trust me on this one. She's like, no, say, we spent an hour and it was more educative. When we finished the call, he wrote a long text thanking me, saying, I didn't know all this. Actually, we need more session. I think we need to be educated. The purpose of governance, the purpose of having systems to monitor your money laundering, the exposure that you can do. Because most of them, they see transaction growing, they're happy with the money, and they're seeking investment, but they don't understand what they can pose to the whole security of the country. So it's a lot of education and capacity building. Thank you.
Thank you, Christian, for your remarks. Coming back to why we are here today, the Mojaloop convening, the Honorable Minister spoke to this as well in her remarks regarding Rwanda having made the decision to consider an open source backed system. And I'd like to pose this question to you, Innocent. What was the motivation for this decision? There is a lot of investment that had already been made in a vendor procured platform, but a couple of years down the line, the government or the regulator have taken, that bold step to say, we're happy to consider an open source backed national payment system. What's the value, but also what drove this decision?
Thanks, Vanessa. So this is not only for the national payment switch, by the way. This is in general terms. We've had situations where we've had vendor lock-ins, right? And this has created quite some, challenges and issues for us in the long run, where you have this particular vendor who, has the proprietary software, and if you want to do some changes on the platform, you cannot easily do them, and it's always costly. So that is one of the key issues that we face. Number two, the government wants to, build the industry, to build the private sector, and touch on the talent that Blaise spoke about, and we could not see that, all right? And would find a situation where we have to rely on someone who is, in another location either out of the country or even out of the continent. And then the third thing is that there was no growth of the market, all right? So because of all these issues that we faced, a decision was made is how, number one, do we ensure, because we have good talent in this country, right? CMU is producing very good software engineers. University of Rwanda is doing the same. ALU, AIMS, AUCA, they are all putting out really, really brilliant individuals who are able to do some of this work. So if we are not, supporting them, where are they going to find the work to do? Number two, we have small startups, companies, SME. How do we make sure that they're actually a part of the ecosystem? How do they participate in the process? And then the final bit is that not only in the private sector, for example, like RSH, but even in government, you've had situations where you have a system, and if you have any challenge, it takes you a week or two to find an engineer to be able to fix it. So we decided to do two things. One, open up the space and embark on open standards. Two, it's not necessarily that it's open source per se, but it's rather open standards. Open source, yes. If you're writing on open standards, we are more than happy to have a conversation and we'll embrace the technology. Some of these systems we're building in-house in government, others we're partnering with private companies here, and others we actually, yes, we invite private companies to do it, but on condition that we have capabilities and ability to be able to make changes or work with them to have some alterations if we need. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. So what I'm hearing is that it's that need for independence, cultivating knowledge, cost reductions, but also opening up the ecosystem. I'd like to come back to you, Blaise, on this. You've touched on the importance of local talent and capacity building, which Innocent has also emphasized. But as a scheme manager and scheme operator, there are many other factors that shape what you're building today. Could you just highlight what are some of these other critical aspects that really determine how you will deliver this initiative to Rwandans?
The technology part is essential. Could be complicated, sophisticated, but the most challenging part now is the rest when it comes to scheme rules, governance, compliance, pricing, inclusivity. You start, when we talk about interoperability here, we are talking about putting in place an infrastructure, a shared infrastructure, a public infrastructure, where everyone now will come with a different product and innovation and build up. We need to realize that these are different types of businesses. So how do you put them together? They have different business models. Their level of sensitivity is different. By itself, gathering them around the table and come up with an agreement, it's not easy. So those are the things that, as a scheme manager, we need to navigate. And we need to make sure that everyone sees value. I liked what Director Christian mentioned here about showing the value that it is bringing to a newcomer, and the value to an incumbent who has been there, and also the value to the consumer, a consumer who's to a certain extent probably accustomed to a system that might not be perfect, broken to a certain extent, but that is working. How do you convert now that consumer? How do we ensure that we get to a pricing that makes sense for the operator, but also that is qualified for affordability and inclusivity? So those are the areas that are quite challenging, that we've been navigating for the last 2 to 3 years. I would say that the progress has been quite good, but also thanks to stakeholders such as the central bank, because in this you need a certain level of arbitration, and also the fact that interoperability and RNDPS is part of the national agenda. There's a priority that is put to it. And that has given a certain level of comfort and trust also to participants to feel that, okay, this is a project that is well thought through, and we also need to contribute to it. We need to work on compliance and risk mitigations, because at the same time, as much as this is a necessity, we need to ensure that it's not opening doors to malpractices, to fraudulent actions. When we talk about inclusivity, we also look at, we have the early adopters, and usually these are institutions with muscles to plan and capital to do all the integrations and development that they need to put in place. But we have also other players that we want now to include. These will be the likes of MFIs, SACCOs, which might not necessarily have all that is needed. And the question now becomes, how do we make sure that we also integrate them? How do we make sure that we have a pricing that can accommodate them? Again, this is now a challenge to the operator, which becomes, once you've ticked all these boxes, you need to ensure that you have a system and operations that could be self-sustaining. Now, how do you make sure that at the same time as you tick all these boxes, because some of them might seem a bit competing, how do you make sure that you reach the level of sustainability? So I would say that technology is important, is key, but without all these other aspects, the project might not come to life.
Thank you, Blaise. I think what I hear is that technology may be the easiest of all of the aspects that we have to deal with. A lot of, business, governance, operations, and regulatory considerations, which I think highlights really the complexity of running such a scheme. But there's one element that, kept coming up, the aspect of value proposition. And I want to pose this to Gaga as the party that's closest to the customers, or like most often say, the party that owns the customers. What do you think will be the key success drivers of selling this value to the customers? Or what do Airtel Money customers want?
Well, I wish we owned customers, as you say, but we are far from that. So what am I looking for as Airtel Money or any other participant in this case? Number one, I think it's the ease of integration. Just as Blaise touched on it, technology could be the easiest part sometimes, but when it comes to integration, and this I remember back in the days when we were deploying the first platform, it was a new standard. It was an ISO 222 that the industry was not really accustomed to as before. And then we started having areas where people were patching converters in between, and this is where I really thank Wiredin and their team that came in to support the industry a lot. So for me, the ease of integration is very, very key because we may not have the same skills when it comes to adopting to these new technologies. Number two, Blaise mentioned it, it's around the governance of the scheme. How is the governance structured of the scheme? Do I feel like I'm part of it? Is my voice heard? Do we have the right controls? How does the regulator perceive the scheme? Generally, how do we get to decision making together into the overall governance of the scheme? And number three, I'm sure you're still surprised I haven't mentioned price. So number three is support that comes after. I think, and I'm privileged enough to have been part of the journey of R-Switch and still working with Blaise in a different capacity. And over the last weekend, this is an area that we kept discussing, the support, which is the value proposition that is bringing. So we are seeing a lot more participation or attraction to participate based on the value that the switch is, putting in our faces. So for me, support after joining is always very, very key. If I'm not able to get, when it comes to, don't want to get into the technicalities of it, if a customer is not able to access their funds, if I make a transfer and somehow it is hanging, if I haven't really seen my money in my settlement account, all these areas that I get to participate. I guess that was Q for closing. And lastly is pricing. So if the pricing really makes sense for me, then definitely this is an area that's never been the pricing I know, but I think there's always acceptable areas where pricing becomes a determinant factor for us as participants. Thank you.
Thank you, Gaga. So ease of integration, governance, support, and finally pricing. I must say, I think like Blaise, I'm probably a bit surprised that pricing comes last on that list. I think as we wrap up, I want to pose the final question to our regulator on the panel. We've discussed a lot about technology, about talent, participant engagement, and several operational factors that have been shared. But we also know that as these instant payments grow, they will foster a more competitive and innovative fintech ecosystem, which could open up for some more risks, like you talked about. So what are some of the biggest regulatory challenges that you face as this fintech adoption expands, especially in terms of balancing market growth with risk management and ensuring that we have resilience within the financial sector?
Thank you, Vanessa, and thanks, Gaga, for the good answer. I can't agree more. I'll put my answers into 4 points, and I'll call them MICE. One is M. M stands for managing innovation risk. And innovation comes with a lot of risk that is most of the time underestimated. The second one is inclusivity and trust. As we grow, there is a whole perception, which is valid, that people don't trust money when it sits on a mobile wallet than when it sits in a bank account. So yes, one, inclusivity is needed, but how do we create customer trust in an era where USSD is extremely vulnerable and we have little penetration of smartphones? So that's a big challenge. The third one is cross-border transaction and compliance. One, because we have distorted regulatory or understanding of data transaction, data processing, data exchange. How do we define AML, CFT? How do we do B2B KYC in terms of business operations? So as a regulator being an enabler, but you realize it's beyond what a regulator can do. There's also the side of the political will of the country to allow cross-border transaction, especially for smallholder farmers or little FMCG business people. The last one is efficient resources. We are today confident with Mojaloop that the platform is no longer a problem, and this is a conversation we are having in Singapore. That in Africa we tend to say, oh, technology, technology. I don't think technology is anymore a problem. I think it's the ability to adapt to technology, because we are not reinventing the wheels. I was in Singapore for the SFF, massive innovation. You can show up and take one and bring it home. But how many people are ready to integrate their APIs? That's one. Two, how many people understand how to do it? So we need efficient resources, not just at the market player, even the regulatory side. In most cases, we are playing catch up. Rwanda is very intentional when it comes to solutions like SoupTech and RegTech that we are working on. We're even undergoing a digital transformation at Central Bank. We have many people that come to learn from us. We have an electronic data warehouse where we collect data from different participants. But when you travel around what's happening on the globe, we also notice humbly that there's a lot that needs to be addressed, and we are working intentionally as a central bank to address that. Thank you, Vanessa.
Thank you very much, Christian. And thank you to all our panelists for your invaluable insights and perspectives. I believe RNDPS is not just about building a robust, digital infrastructure. It's really about creating the blueprint for resilience and innovation. And I hope that, Rwanda's journey will be an inspiration to the other countries. I don't know if we have some time for questions, but I said it's rare to have these 4 at the same time. So if you have a question, please, maybe we'll have time for just 1 or 2. Okay. Can we have a microphone?
Thank you very much, moderator. My question is on the recently launched the Rwanda FinTech strategy. I know it's not yet a policy, but it's a strategy which is very good for us to know. And I have a question specifically for the regulator on the crypto assets. and how they integrate with platforms that are on that platform where you're seated. One is that I was glad to know that the crypto assets is a subset of the fintech subsectors that we have. And I was equally glad that Rwanda recognizes that the crypto assets are 2% of the fintech ecosystem in the country. So in itself, the country recognizes that crypto assets are playing a role in the country. However, the regulator has advised the general public not to be very careful or not to indulge in crypto assets. It's a public notice that went out. Now this brings a contradiction. Recognize the importance and the role the crypto assets are playing in the economy, but at the same time, you weren't coming out openly to just support what the crypto assets are playing in the economy. So my question is, how long is it going to take for the regulator to create the instruments that you need to regulate? Although you'll still be confused how you'll be regulating a decentralized crypto assets ecosystem, but if you must regulate that, when do we come up with that so that paves the way for you to now advise the public that they can freely and comfortably participate in safe crypto assets, which some of us are actively involved in. And I'm glad that you talked about MICE, which includes the risk. So me and you agree that for all this to be able to take place, risk is going to be involved. And I am imagining that why that instrument has not even come out is because you're waiting for that one incident that is going to be risky, so then you can be able to tell one and say, aha, we told you. Don't be involved in this. But the fact that it hasn't happened is because it's safe. It's fairly safe. Thank you.
Over to you, Christian.
Yeah, thank you so much, Robert. I was hoping that Innocent will answer the fintech part. But I've also seen Esther. I don't know if she's still in the room. I don't know if I go first and then... Okay, yeah, I'll not... on the thinking strategy, allow me to skip on that one and go straight to the crypto or virtual asset service providers. The government position is that crypto are banned currently, right? For multiple reasons. There's a whole uncharted territory that comes with cryptography or cryptocurrency. And there's extreme little knowledge, leave alone crypto, even financial inclusion or mobile wallet. I'll give you an example in Rwanda. There are multiple people that still use agent on the street to keep their personal PIN. So when they need to cash out, they need to go to someone and tell them, oh, remind me, what's my PIN? And then they cash out for them. And I don't know if you know the iceberg of behavior. There is belief and behavior. Most people, we focus on the behavior. We say, oh, crypto is good, P2P, bill payment. If you're doing transfer on USDT, it's not expensive. It's not risky. The USDT fluctuation versus the USD is not high. We don't understand what the government is banning, blah, 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 and all that. Or even bill payments. Today, if you use Bitcoin, which is popular and advertised by superstars like Ronaldinho, Cristiano Ronaldinho, you wonder, why is everyone advertising it on Instagram and not Rwanda? What the job regulator is protect you as a consumer, but also protect your market. We are facing what we are facing today with the fluctuation of the dollar versus your local currencies and other currencies for multiple reasons. let me put it, I don't believe this is the right time to leapfrog, because you bring one solution, but it comes with multiple misbehavior in a market where adoption and penetration is still growing. We are still creating interoperability in a market where we have dominant mobile wallet, and even your financial inclusion and access to bank to the vulnerable is not there. So you really don't know what you can create. What we are doing today, and it's an ongoing conversation for almost 2 years, is from virtual asset service provider, what do Rwanda need? We have CBDC, Central Bank Digital Currency. There's a group chat of my friends, one of them posted, they say, Central Bank doesn't want people, private, to do this, and they are bringing their own crypto. We are not bringing our own crypto. We are regulating and creating an environment and policy so that market player can come and do this. Why do I think CBDC is needed? Maybe for cross-border. I mentioned cross-border being a challenge. That is one avenue that markets like Nigeria, Ghana, and other countries are looking at saying, okay, we have the biggest challenge when it comes to cross-border of currency exchange, because people want to keep money in dollar or in a certain currency. The SADC region, most of them are trying to see if they can use the rand. But you'll realize it's a fight of which currency do we use? Do we use Naira? Do we use Rwandan francs to settle? And most business people will tell you, no, me, I want my money to stay in euros and dollar because of the fluctuation when I'm exchanging or paying my suppliers FOB or DDP, I want it to stay in dollar. But central bankers will say, no, we want it to be in local currency. Then CBDC comes in, right? That's one use case, and we can talk about it more. So just to remove this bias, there is no confusion on this one. That's one. Two, there's no contradiction. It's just that you need to protect your market to a certain level and see it's good to be innovative. It's good to be, as a country, ambitious, but there is what you need and is what important for the market. Today, I think the priority is to create affordability as an economy of financial transaction. Let me give you a hint, and this was published by the group CEO of MTN, Mr. Ralph Lupita, in an article of Jeune Afrique. It's in French. You can go look for it. He started with a statement saying, the success of banking globally is interoperability. He said, however much we are fighting against interoperability, the success of fintech will not be full if these systems don't talk to each other. The biggest challenge we have today in Africa is not crypto. I don't know why people are happy about it. Our fintech system need to talk to each other. Today, if you have to send money, and I'm happy someone from MTN is here, if I have to send money from MTN Rwanda to MTN Ghana, I can't do it directly. I need like 4 intermediary people to do transaction for me. You need a bank, you need an aggregator, and they need someone to do settlement or even doing what we call FX OVA replenishment for you. And it's a hassle. So if today Gaga wants to send money in Uganda and he doesn't have proper KYC, the risk is that if he sends to the wrong number in Uganda, the people will cash out and disappear in nature in a 50 million population. Those are the real risks that we have, and so on. So this is my position as a director of payment system. I might be wrong. I've stated what the government position today it is on crypto. We are doing a pilot on CBDC, and maybe in 10 years, crypto will be adopted, or 5 years, we don't know. But let's first solve this issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Christian. I think by the powers invested in me as the moderator, I defer this crypto conversation for a different day. Thank you so much for joining us in this panel. It's been a pleasure having you. Thank you.